Hey guys, I'm back. I'm so happy to finally move on to the video that I actually wanted to do. I just had to do an intro video because I had to take the time to, briefly introduce myself, get acquainted with you guys, and, give you guys a little rundown of what my channel is about. So I just wanted to take the time to do that. And oh my god, you guys don't understand how many tries it took me to get my intro right. It was just crazy and it was just actually draining. Of course, interacting with you guys isn't draining. That's not what I meant. Draining as, doing videos, it's like you have to focus on not stuttering or not making weird faces or making sure that I'm smiling because I don't want you guys to think that I'm like mean or I just don't like to smile. I do. It's just when I'm deep in thought, I don't smile. I'm just really focused on what I'm saying. So if I'm not smiling throughout the video or at some point in the video, I'm sorry. It's not my fault. It's just how my brain operates. I just get so far in what I'm talking about, and then it just, I'm not really paying attention to my face. So, but I'll give you guys a little smile, okay? So, here it goes. Okay. So, now that I finished my intro, I hope you guys are all on board with me now. Um, what I really wanted to talk about, which I'm excited to talk to you about because it's something that I've been going through and it's something that I recently gotten control over, and I just want to share with you what I've learned so far. So, what I wanted to talk to you guys about is the pre midlife crisis. At least that's what I call it. It's actually called the quarter life crisis, but I call it the pre midlife crisis, but you could call it either one. And what that is when you're in your 20s, most likely your late 20s, and you're approaching your midlife crisis. But I see all kinds of ages for like the midlife crisis and the pre midlife crisis or whatever. Your late 20s, approaching your 30s, and what happens is, you know, you experience the same, I wouldn't, I guess, side effects, or not side effects, but the same feelings that you would um, when you experience your midlife crisis. And it's basically when you're just going through a time where there's just a lot of pressure, where you're like reflecting on, what are you going to do and what have you done so far and, who am I? And that's a big one, especially in your 20s. Like, you have to really take the time to do the inner work to figure yourself out. And I don't mean figure out yourself by like the material stuff, like what kind of car you're gonna drive, what kind of house you want, like none of that stuff, but really get to know yourself to a core. So, or to the core, I mean, excuse me. Um, yeah, so it's a tough time, you know. I think your 20s are a tough time, which typically people say 20s are your best time, which I'm not saying they aren't. You know, it is a great time to explore and adventure and, be free, but it also is a time at the same time where you're like figuring yourself out and figuring how you're gonna set yourself up in the future. And it's just a lot of pressure, especially for a person who just wants to have fun and just not worry about anything. But I have some tips for you that I'm gonna share that I learned so far, and hopefully these tips could help you overcome this pre midlife crisis, this quarter life crisis, whatever you want to call it. And yeah, so let's get into it. So, the first thing I learned was you just have to really do the inner work. That is the most important thing. You have to do the inner work. And it's scary. It's terrifying. It is. Trust me, it is. Because I went through months of that. And man, let me tell you, it was the hardest months of my life. Like, oh my gosh. It was just so uncomfortable, so awkward, just ugh. You don't want to be in that state, but you have to. It's very essential that you do the inner work, that you introspect on what's going on inside you and to really dig deep inside your soul and inside your subconscious. And I'm actually going to do a video on that later on after this, but your subconscious is very dangerous. Actually, it's really dangerous, and I'm realizing this now how dangerous it is. But that's for another video. But you have to really do the inner work in your subconscious because, you know, a lot of things get caught onto your soul. You have to understand how strong your soul is. It's like a magnet, so it attracts good things and bad things. So you have to be mindful of what you're attracting based off of what energy you're putting out there. So, you know, during your quarter life crisis, you often experience a lot of negative energy because you feel really down in yourself. You're not, you know, sure of yourself. You just feel really depressed. You're just in an icky state, and that could really have you attract things that you don't want to attract in your life. And that's why you feel the way you do. You feel stuck. You feel blocked, because that's essentially what that is, a blockage. A depression and all that anxiety and all that stuff, those are just blockages to stop you from getting where you need to go. So I think the key is to just really embrace the inner work and really be cooperative with the inner work. And I know it sounds crazy because it's like stuff that you just want to avoid and you just want to mask over and you want to ignore, but just know if you do that, it's always going to stay with you, and you're always still going to wonder why you're still stumbling and falling because you haven't done that inner work. You have to take the time to really heal yourself, whether that's you get counseling, or if you are a water dominant person like me, and that's another video. If you're a water dominant person like me, you won't know how to heal yourself because that means you're a very spiritual person and you have healing abilities. So that's tip number 1. Tip number 2 is to just be present. Be present in just everything you do. You know, every experience that you have, just be present and just be at a level head and not just be too blinded into what you're experiencing, because that's all we're here to do as souls, is just experience life in a different perspective than what you experienced in your last life. Sorry. So be present. It's definitely important to just be in that state of neutrality so you aren't blocking yourself off from many experiences that will be beneficial to you. Because I will tell you something, you know, whatever you want in life, whether it's to be famous or be a doctor or be a CEO or whatever it is, you know, the universe will grant you that, but it's not gonna come easy. You have to put in the work. You have to put in the inner work and you have to put in the outer work, of course. But you definitely have to put in the inner work. That's what's gonna help you get through it easily. And you have to understand, like, every path comes with life lessons that you have to learn in order to experience whatever you want to experience, because there are certain things that you have to learn in order to be in that reality. And it's important that you take in these lessons and you really digest these lessons thoroughly, so when you do get to where you are in life, you are prepared and you're ready to receive that blessing and you could appreciate it and accept it. Because if you're not ready, then you're just going to ruin it for yourself and then you're just going to be back at square one. So it's important to understand that everybody has their own spiritual journey and that, you know, everybody is at a certain spot in their life in order to get to another spot in their life. So the next tip is definitely do not compare yourself to other people. Please don't do that. Like, I know it's hard because this is the social media age, so everybody's flexing on Instagram, flexing on YouTube, doing what they do, and not saying that they don't have a right to, because you know they've accomplished so much, so it's like of course you're gonna brag about it, but you being on the receiving end of that, you have to understand to take it with a grain of salt and don't look too deep into what that person is doing, because you only see like a small bit of their life, you know what I'm saying? So you only see a small bit of their life and you don't know what they did to get to where they were, and you don't know what they're going through now. So just because somebody's being all flexy and smiley on the gram or whatever it is, that doesn't mean everything's all good with them. And you don't know what they did to get to wherever they are, wherever you see them at. You don't know what they did. So don't ever feel like jealous or envious. And I'm guilty. I'm going to keep it all the way real with you. I'm a human being. So, of course, I feel those feelings sometimes. But you have to understand that in itself is a blockage as well. Because then you're not focusing on yourself. You're focusing on what somebody else is doing. And that's not what you're supposed to be doing. You're supposed to only be worried about yourself. I'm not saying disregard people or whatever, but don't look too hard about what other people are doing, because then you stray away from your path and then you just want to try to do what they're doing because you see that they're being successful at it and you want to try to do it yourself. And you just have to know what works for you and what doesn't. What may work for somebody else may not work for you. So you just gotta, be adventurous and dabble into different things and, see what works for you, see what doesn't. What may work for that person may not work for you, and you just have to understand you can't just follow behind somebody and think that you're gonna be just as successful as them by like copying what they do. That's just not what you do. You have to do you and be you, essentially be yourself, and then you'll be fine. What else? I think that's it. Being president, you could be president if you want to, if you put your mind to it. But being present is what I was trying to say. Being present, being positive, and embracing your life lessons is very key into overcoming whatever depression you're feeling in your quarter life crisis. I almost said midlife, quarter life. But even if you are in your midlife crisis, the same thing applies. It's just really harder for 20-year-olds because we're transitioning to young adulthood. So it's like we're like still in the middle between wanting to be young and irresponsible and mature and responsible. So it's like having that balance, So, but even if you're in your midlife crisis, the same rules apply. But this video is, I really wanted to make it more so towards, the younger adults, because I am a younger adult myself. But even if you're older than 20, you could still take this advice, even though maybe you're at a point in your life where you're older than me and you already know this stuff by now. But just because you're like 30 something, that doesn't mean you know this stuff. So maybe this information could be helpful for you. So I'm glad I could help. So I wanted to talk about my experience with it. My experience with my quarter life crisis has been hell and back. Like, oh my goodness. And, also because I've been going through a lot of transits in my birth chart. if you're into astrology, you'll know what a birth chart is and you'll know what transits are. And I'm going to get more into my birth chart and birth charts in general later on. But I've been going through a lot of transits that's been causing me to go through a lot of transformation. And I will tell you a big one that I've been going through is Pluto in the 12th house. Deep, 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 deep transformation. Your 12th house is your subconscious. So I'm digging deep in my subconscious to like figure out what's going on with me. And I dug deep. For real, for real. And it wasn't easy. And it was definitely a long process. It took me a few months, but I'm glad that I overcame it like a few days ago. But, you know, for the past few months, I have just been in a down state, very negative, just have a lot of negative energy on my soul, and that's why I just felt really stuck and just really confused about my life and just where I was going with what I've accomplished. Oh, and that reminds me, another tip. Give yourself a pat on the back. Like, don't be so hard on yourself. Like, even the smallest accomplishments, give yourself a pat on the back, you know. Give yourself credit. You know, when you do that, you know, that helps things be easier on you too. If you're just always being hard on yourself, then you're only making your life more stressful and there's really no need to. You need if nobody else is going to give you a pat on the back, you have to do it, you know? And you have to recognize that, you know, I've been through a lot. I came so far and I'm proud of myself. And that's something I remind myself all the time is to say, hey, Isabel, like, you did a good job and I'm proud of you, or I'm proud of myself, you know? So it's good to just give yourself a pat on the back and, like, you know, acknowledge your process and be proud, you know? And that helps boost your confidence and that helps boost you up, or essentially glow up, okay? So, yeah, my quarter life crisis was difficult, but you know, I just learned to, like I told you guys, embrace the process and understand that, you know, whatever I ask for in my life, these are the lessons that I have to go through before I get to that point in my life, you know. So I'm ready to fully receive it and appreciate it, you know. So, and it was just a really dark time, but now I'm better now, and I'm gonna tell you how it happened. What happened was, um, so I was meditating one day, and I was just like, you know, in my meditative state. So I had like my eyes closed. I was in the dark, and I was like thinking about all the things that I'm going to accomplish. That's a key thing. Always be mindful of what you're saying, and I'm gonna get into that as well. Be mindful of just your affirmations to the universe, you know what I'm saying? Because that really affects, you know, your reality. And that's another thing, no, to know as a, you know, young adult. You create your own reality, believe it or not. As much as people want to believe like there's some sort of outside force that's, you know, controlling everything, like, no, you're in control. Believe it or not, you are. We are many universes in a big universe. So we're very powerful beings. And that in itself should make you feel, you know, make you feel yourself like, wow, I'm a powerful being. Yeah, you are. And you have the power to remove yourself from certain situations that you're in. You do. As out of control as you feel that you are, and trust me, I know how that feels because I felt that way before, but trust me, you are very much in control of your reality, and that's just something you have to remember. You know, be careful with things that you put out to the universe. Be careful with things that you're thinking because that could be shoved to your subconscious. Like, be careful of what you're creating, because then you might create situations that you don't even want, and then you're going to wonder why is this happening, and then that's why. So definitely definitely pay attention to your subconscious. Like, I have to do a video on that. But so I was thinking on, all the things that I will accomplish in my life, and then I just felt like this expansion happened. Like, it was like a slow expansion. Like, my brain was just like, and then it just released, and then I felt like a release, and then it was just like amazing. It was like I just stepped into a whole new world, and it's like with baby eyes, like fresh eyes, and it was just like, wow, I didn't realize how simple it was to just let go of the negativity and how better you'll feel. And I know it's like easier said than done, but it really is that simple. You just have to really dig deep within yourself and really work on yourself. And depending on how wounded you are or how much negativity you have, it may take longer than others. But you just got to be patient with the process, because again, we live in a realistic world. We live on earth, so things on earth, it takes time to process and play out, and you just have to be patient with the reality that we live in, so whatever you want in life, or whatever you want to do, or whatever, even if you're currently working on it, don't give up on it. Be patient with it. It'll happen over time. Things happen differently on earth than it does in the spiritual world. Things in the spiritual world happen like this. Things on earth, it's like a process. But it's like you get to physically see your processes. Whereas in the spiritual world, you don't see those processes. They just happen. But that's why it's very important to keep your soul pure, your energy pure, so you can attract the things that you do want, Because if you have blockages, you're just blocking out your blessings. You're blocking out the things that you ask for. And then when you do clear your spirit, you just see everything that you asked for just come like this. And it's just like, wow, it didn't come because I was so blocked off. Yeah, that's what happens when, you drown yourself in negativity. You get blocked off, and you don't get to experience the things that you created in your mind. So that's key. So what happened to me was, my brain expanded. It just blew up, and then I just took it all in. And, for once in my life, I actually felt like I was in this peaceful state of just being in the moment, not worrying about my future, not worrying about my past, not worrying about anything, just being present. And that's very important. And I just realized by being in that state how powerful I am. I just felt like the sun in the middle of like the solar system. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's just how I felt. So it's like one of those feelings where you just get that release, and then it feels amazing. You just feel free, and it makes you realize how bogged down you were, and how you were just so entrapped into such a negative mind state. So that was my experience, and that's how I overcame it. I just sat in my meditative state, and I just, just pushed through, and that's just, what I did. So that's what worked for me. You can do it however you want. If you like to meditate, if you like to work out, whatever, just do whatever you can to take the time for yourself to work on yourself is key. So, and how I overcame this was I just accepted my obstacles. I'm accepting the process. I'm not fighting against it, because, that's life. It's like a current. You're going to feel that up and down, up and down, up and down. And when you're in that state of just being, you do actually feel that up and down, up and down. It's important to just go with the flow with that and not stay stuck in one spot. You know what I'm saying? Is to just keep going, keep flowing. So that's very important. And you get the hang of it. And you just gotta force yourself to just stay up. As easy as it is to fall into that darkness, you just force yourself to stay up. And that's just how you overcome it. And that's how I overcame it. And that's how I'm overcoming it now. And now I'm ready for whatever next obstacle is going to be thrown at me, because now I have the strength to overcome that, and so will you. So that's just my little video on how to deal with the quarter life crisis. And again, this information is for people who are going through their midlife crisis. Obviously, your mindset is at a different mindset than a 20-year-old, but it's still more or less the same. So, yeah, that's it. That's all I have. If you guys have any questions, you could comment below, share your experiences in the comments. If I don't get to your comment, feel free to email me at my Gmail or my Instagram in my description box. And yeah, I can't wait to hear from you guys and get your feedback. Thank you guys for watching. Bye. See you in the next one.